Marijuana. It's the most popular illicit drug in America and a multi-billion-dollar industry.
These cartels will stop at nothing in furtherance of the almighty dollar.
And you'll never guess where they're growing it.
I don't think a lot of the public realizes that these people are here.
There's a lot of heat coming right out of there.
Could it be in your neighborhood?
Would people be surprised to know that their next-door neighbor could be a grower?
Not anymore.
Plus,
medical marijuana recommendations.
Some call it a wonder drug.
It was the only thing that alleviated any of my symptoms.
A battle brewing in California.
It is the Wild West right now.
Why'd they do this to our club?
This man could face the rest of his life in prison.
What happened to Charles Lynch is wrong.
I'll lose everything if they take me to jail that day.
Why some say our marijuana laws aren't working.
The prohibition of marijuana is much more harmful to the user and to society than the actual use of marijuana.
Marijuana. 100 million Americans have tried it, and yet it remains one of the most controversial drugs. Effectively outlawed in 1937, it's become a multi-billion-dollar industry with a steady demand and no shortage of supply. In fact, sometimes you needn't look any further than the house next door to find it growing. "7:30 in the morning, Miami, Florida.
Go up, do a consent.
Agents of the Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA, and police gather in a parking lot to get briefed on the day's mission.
We're going to go to 128.
The plan? To hit a list of homes they suspect are marijuana grow houses.
The registered owner doesn't live at this address, but that's where they delivered it to.
They have no idea what or whom they'll find.
Anybody got any questions? Get your guns.
Every scenario we approach with the same amount of safety because we don't know who's on the other side of the door.
While much of the city is still waking up, the agents drive 10 cars deep onto quiet suburban streets where they say secret grow houses blend in with the house next door.
This is a nice neighborhood. Nice-looking homes, decent backyards. Would people be surprised to know that there are growers? Their next-door neighbor could be a grower?
Not anymore. This used to be uncommon years ago, but now it's quite common.
Tony Angeli says grow houses, while not a new phenomenon, are increasing in size and scope. And the typical indoor grow they see, about 100 to 150 plants, is a multi-million-dollar operation. Each plant yields about a pound of marijuana, worth at least $3,500 on the Miami streets, and can be harvested 3 to 4 times a year.
Florida, unfortunately, is the nation's capital for grow houses. On the books right now this year, we have over 700 grows, and we're looking at 1,000 by the end of the year.
While marijuana generally has a reputation as a mild drug, its illegal cultivation, Angeli says, is serious business, oftentimes involving organized crime. Case in point, in 2006, South Florida police bust a huge marijuana growing operation in the unassuming suburb of Port St. Lucie, Florida, involving 59 houses in all.
What set this investigation apart from so many other grow houses that we encountered was the breadth, the level of organization, and the degree of sophistication.
The operation was masterminded and financed by a New Jersey business that recruited mostly Cuban immigrants with an irresistible sales pitch. Live in a new home, all expenses paid. Just one catch.
Under the relocation package, each homeowner agreed to maintain a grow house for a minimum of 2 years, after which the homeowner had the right to sell the house if he so wished and split the gains 50-50.
The grower also got a quarter share of the profits, some houses earning up to $5 million worth of pot a year. 35 suspects were brought in on federal drug charges, and those convicted faced as much as 20 to 40 years in prison.
Will you get calls sometimes from people in the neighborhood?
Yes, quite often. Neighbors will see different things around the neighborhood, become suspicious, and call our hotline.
But on this day, the DEA is working on tips from informants and other sources, doing what's known as knock-and talks, searches which require the owner's consent.
Is that a successful tactic? I mean, will people actually let you come into their house if they're growing stuff inside?
Quite often, yes.
Really?
You'd be surprised.
Why?
A lot of times people are cooperative with law enforcement, more so than any other reason. I believe that they think they know we're onto them. And they say, well, you've got me. Come on in.
Outside, if no one's home, the agents look for certain telltale signs. Spikes in electricity, extra air conditioning units, and homes that don't have that lived-in look. After a few minutes search, agents rule out this house.
It was clean. There was nothing there.
But towards the end of the day, the agents think they may have something.
Right now, we're just waiting on the canine to see if he can detect anything.
Find it.
The dog's trained to detect the smell of marijuana. He's the best tool we have to detect that.
DEA agent Jeanette Moran says she became suspicious during the search as the owner rushes them from room to room.
And I've never seen anybody go through a house that quickly, opening doors. Every door must have been closed, and I think we went from one end of the house to the other in about 3 seconds flat.
But once inside the bathroom, Moran's trained ears perk up.
We could hear blowers, except if you look in the bathroom, there's no blower attached. You can see all the drywall that's been probably torn down to help put the grow up there.
The giveaway? A ladder in a clothes closet with a tile in the ceiling carved out. Once they climb the ladder and move the ceiling tile, it leads to an attic that leads to another tiny room. In it, a marijuana grow, but not the size they're expecting.
This is a relatively small indoor grow, 11 plants, maybe about 10 inches to a foot tall. They're not seedling plants, they're a little bit more mature, but they're just getting started.
Angeli says even this small grow can yield a surprising amount of money.
These little plants are a little bit deceiving right now. These are 11 plants. Once they grow to maturity, they will yield, in less than 3 months, 11 pounds of marijuana, worth over $50,000.
There are those who would say, look, you're putting all this effort into this. Why don't you concentrate on the bigger drugs, cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, prescription pills? Is this a good use of time and resources for the DEA?
This is an excellent use of DEA resources, and we're targeting everything. All the drugs you just mentioned, this issue is very important to us.
Most people would say, hey, look, it's marijuana. What's the big deal?
It's more potent now than ever. So the days of the former arguments about it being a mild drug that everybody uses, those days are over.
Angeli says controlled conditions and sophisticated growing techniques have made marijuana stronger and therefore more dangerous. The government considers it a gateway to more serious drugs and spends millions of dollars a year on marijuana law enforcement. Pro-marijuana groups argue that in the cases of more potent pot, users adjust their intake and smoke less. And they say there's no evidence that marijuana leads to harder drugs. As for the government's war on marijuana, they say it's expensive and has had little effect on the millions of users. A drug war raging in our national parks and forests.
I kept thinking if I turn my back, I'm going to get a bullet in the back of my head.